This is the briefing for the Game Master. As we said in the introduction, the primary objective of the Radical Forgiveness game, like all games, is to have fun and to enjoy good fellowship with friends. When you play it, I think you will find that it does indeed provide that kind of opportunity. It can also provide a safe way for people to share parts of themselves that they might not ordinarily reveal in normal social conversation. But only if they want to, of course. The game does not promote confrontation or cajole people into revealing anything that they would rather keep to themselves. In fact, one of the responsibilities of the Game Master is to make sure that no one is pressured or confronted, and that the players do not give advice to anyone unless it is specifically asked for. On the other hand, it is okay to ask the person if they want feedback. It still shouldn't be given as advice, but sometimes people who know us really well might be able to see connections that we cannot see for ourselves, so it might be offered as an insight in that way. Nevertheless, we should still be very sensitive, and if in any doubt, say nothing. The subtext to the game, as you might well imagine, is that we hope that all those who join you in playing the game will have a radical forgiveness experience. If you have listened to the Radical Forgiveness Experience piece on this CD, or better yet, have read my book, Radical Forgiveness Making Room for the Miracle, you will know what that means. It's up to you, of course, but in the beginning anyway, I would recommend that you play the 5-minute introduction to the Radical Forgiveness game to the group before you start. They will probably be more inclined to listen to it all the way through before asking a question than if you try to give an introduction yourself. You know how friends can be, right? My objective with that introduction was to introduce a couple of concepts that they might meet as they progress through the game. One of them was projection, which they will meet when they land on the projection square or the if you spot it, you got it square. And I hinted at the idea that people who push our buttons might be our mirrors, and therefore might also be our healing angels for us. I also mentioned beliefs and blocks and how they are embedded in our victims' stories. The game is designed to identify those factors and to not only release them, but in the case of beliefs, create new and more empowering ones to replace them with. So let's go through the game guide and deal with any part of that which might need a little further explanation. Before I do that, though, I think maybe I should say something about the two ways of approaching the game. This is mentioned in my introduction on the CD and in the game guide, but you might need to give people some further guidance on each of the two approaches. A player who might go for option 1 would be one who has an issue that's really up for them right now, something they either need to get clarity on or to have some resolution around. For example, it might be that they're at a crossroads in their life and need help in figuring out what is next for them. Or it might be that they're having a relationship problem and need to work through that. Someone at work might have betrayed them and they're still hurting about it, and so on. If they choose this option, they don't pick an event card or a context card, but they would have to tell the group about the situation they're working with, at least in outline. But let me also put a word of caution in here. If the person is in a state of extreme upset about something and seems quite unstable, they should not play the game. Not even by using the second option. Whatever they are upset about will come out through the game anyway, so you should say no even to that. You don't want a basket case on your hands, and the game is not to be seen as a form of therapy. I would also advise someone who is severely depressed not to play. I very much doubt that you'll ever get that situation, but I wanted to make that point in case it does. It is highly unlikely that a person in that state would turn up anyway. That said, don't be surprised if you do have people experience strong emotions and begin crying at some point during the game. That's okay. Just let everyone be with it and don't try to fix people who do cry. The second option is to simply let the game suggest their issue. The event card will give them some kind of situation, such as, your friend betrayed you. The context card will suggest the context in which this event might have taken place. Let's say the context card says hospital. At first blush, that might seem an unlikely combination, but as the person contemplates the two of them, it might strike them that they are still hurting because some years ago a friend let them down over some kind of a health issue, which, while not hospital-related necessarily, might have escalated to hospitalization had measures not been taken. In other words, the cards may not have completely literal meanings, but might have some symbolic meaning to the person, sufficient anyway to bring something up from the subconscious that has energy stuck around it. The game will have the effect of releasing that stuck energy and dissolving that story. On the other hand, the cards may not seem to correlate at all, at least not at first anyway, to any story that they're aware of holding within them. This doesn't matter, they simply make one up, based on the two cards they're given, and they go with that. You will be amazed at how even a made-up story will begin to reflect things in their own lives as they progress through the game. Even a totally made-up story will still give them the radical forgiveness experience, so it is not a second-class choice. Let me now go through and explain some of the landing spaces, and if necessary, expand on what is in the game guide, so you can at least give some appearance of having more expertise than everyone else. Oh, and be aware that the consequences of a landing space may vary depending on which level they're in, so make sure you're reading from the right level when you tell someone the consequences. That can be a little tricky, so you will have to be awake. But before going to talk about each landing space, I guess I should emphasize that you will need to keep everyone totally committed to doing the group responses. At first, people do feel a little awkward doing it, but much happens energetically when the group responds to the person doing their thing. So take a lead and try to pull the group along with you. Okay, so now, beliefs. This is self-explanatory, I think, especially given what I say on the intro piece. But energy blocks. Now, you might get some questions about this one, since it referenced chakras, and some people are not familiar with those. Chakras are energy centers which are in the etheric body, the energetic template for our physical body. However, they are connected to various organs and systems in the body. They vibrate at particular frequencies that correspond to various colors and sounds. Caroline Myss is the best known of many researchers who have shown that these 7 energy centers that are lined vertically up the physical body tend to carry specific kinds of emotional, psychological, and spiritual issues. The most significant ones associated with each chakra, and the color for each chakra, you will find on the spinner. You will also see that there are 7 cards that have these issues printed on them. These are the blocks cards. In our workshops, we find that the best way to release blocks is to direct breath into the affected chakra for a period of time. So that's why we suggest in the game the use of the releasing breath to release a block. None of this is random. There are sound reasons why each response is what it is. Anyway, if you want more information about the chakras, you can refer to chapter 16 in my Radical Forgiveness book, or if you need even more than that, refer to The Anatomy of the Spirit by Caroline Myss. Let's go now to projection. I have explained projection in the intro, but what needs to be explained here is that projection is always unconscious and arises out of our rejection of a part of ourselves which we have judged, denied, repressed, and projected onto someone else. A repression is also always an energy block, and a very costly one at that. In doing the releasing breath, we are in effect energetically releasing that energy block and at the same time healing the part of ourselves we have rejected. What I mean by that is that we bring love and acceptance to that part of ourselves that has been crying out for our love and acceptance. But let's be clear here, none of this needs to be explained or made conscious for the purpose of the game. It'll happen anyway, just in doing that one releasing breath. I'm only telling you in case others should need further clarification. In the blame game, encourage the person to vent their feelings and to really be the victim. This might be a little difficult for some people who are not accustomed to expressing their upset directly to the person they're angry with. If they say they don't feel angry, just tell them to fake it till they make it. Karma is another one of those concepts not always understood in the West. It tends to be associated with Eastern philosophies and the idea of reincarnation, and for that reason may spook a Christian. However, it can be taken out of the religious context by referring to the law of cause and effect. If we set up a cause, we might reasonably expect an effect to occur. Another way it is expressed colloquially is, what goes around comes around. A karma card means then that you might have set up a cause in your life that seems to be showing up in your life as an energy that needs balancing. You might even have come in to this lifetime with that energy to balance. The guess what landing space is pretty obvious. Just like ordinary life, something unexpected crops up all of a sudden. Good or bad, it's whatever it is, and we have to deal with it. If we can stay out of judgment about it, so much the better. Now go to level 2, the awareness level. There's a few here that need some further explanation. Let's look at willingness. It is one of the main tenets of radical forgiveness that for the miracles to occur, it requires only a tiny amount of willingness, a willingness to be willing even, to just entertain the possibility that what has happened was meant to happen, and that my divine self co-created it for my highest good. No matter what form the radical forgiveness technology that I use to express that tiny bit of willingness, whether it's the worksheet in the book, the 13 steps on the CD, the radical forgiveness ceremony, or this game, it will still work. That's why this step is important and why the response needs to be really good. That willingness needs to be honored. Releasing breath, I've already dealt with, so let's skip to let it go. That's pretty obvious too, but I would wish to stress how important it is to use the body in the affirmation. Our stories and beliefs live in every cell of our bodies. The body needs to feel and register the release at the physical level. Spiritual bypass. Now this is a juicy one. A spiritual bypass occurs when a person skips the feeling stage and goes straight to the spiritual explanation of why something happened. To fully transmute or transform a story, we must first of all tell it to someone, to have it witnessed and validated. That is a very important step. After all, it happened, and the fact should be heard by someone with compassion and empathy. The next step, however, is also vitally important, to touch into the feelings associated with that event. If you don't allow yourself to feel the feelings, nothing happens. You have to remember, the stuck energy is emotional energy. If you don't at least start it moving, nothing can happen. Spiritual people have a tendency to skip this part altogether and go straight to meditation or go out of body, but they miss the essential element. The power to heal is in the feelings. Self-acceptance. Well, the thing here is that people are so used to beating themselves up, especially about having attracted someone into their lives who victimized them, that we needed to have this in here somewhere. People also give themselves a hard time over having so-called negative feelings. Well, in my book, there is no such thing as a negative feeling. The only negative feeling is one that is repressed. Then it becomes highly toxic. So long as we express our feelings, they are all okay, and we need to stop judging ourselves for having them. They are God-given. If you spot it, you got it. This is the recognition that what you are seeing out there in other people, that you judge and criticize heavily and get all self-righteous about, is the part of yourself that you have rejected and projected onto them. By looking around the table to see which belief or block you resonate most with symbolically represents the taking back of the projection. You are owning it and then accepting it unconditionally as your own. If there isn't one out there to pick up, then just pick up a belief card from the pack. Go now to level 3, shift happens, and healing angel. I alluded to that in the introduction, but basically this is recognizing that through the law of attraction, we bring people into our lives to act out our issues for us, or to mirror our self-hatred, so that we can heal. The people who therefore appear to be the most trouble to us are offering us an opportunity to heal, which means that they are, in fact, our healing angels. What they appear to be doing to us, they are doing for us. And we are doing the same for them in return. Now go to level 4, surrender. The radical forgiveness one is, of course, the big one. It is, in essence, the reframe. Nothing wrong ever happened, so there's nothing to forgive. Everything is in divine order. This and the surrender one really takes us to what I call the full Satori. The word Satori is a Japanese word, which means spiritual awakening or great insight. When we have the insight that everything is in divine order, we come to an extraordinary place of peace within. Our human journey is to experience ourselves first as separate, alone, vulnerable and afraid. And then, as we journey forward through life and gain spiritual wisdom, we begin to see God in everything, come to see a greater purpose in life, and then finally experience ourselves in a state of oneness and love. That's the full Satori. As each player gets to the Satori, they wait for everyone else to get there. It usually does not take long once the first has arrived for the others to catch up. This, then, is the grand finale. Each person, beginning with the one who got there first, suggests a possible reframe for the situation they started with, and creates a new reality out of the new beliefs and the new story cards they have accumulated on the new story side of their game card. Then they each read one of the 2 affirmations. Then, as a group, they circle up and together read the radical forgiveness invocation. The game usually takes between 1 and 2 hours. It shouldn't take more than that. If it does, it might mean that someone did a whole lot more talking than was necessary. If you have someone like that, you may have to make a suggestion about keeping contributions short and to the point, otherwise the game will go on too long. If you can, discourage a lot of side issue stories and anecdotes for this very reason. Good. Now let's deal with the after effects of the game, and then that'll be it. There is no doubt about it that this game will stir up stuff in people. Be really sure to have everyone read the paragraph on the back of the guide and be cognizant of what is written there. If people call you and they're having trouble, make sure you have someone you can refer them to if it's outside of your expertise. One thing that you can suggest to them is to go to my website and do the online worksheet on the same issue that they worked on during the game, or whatever else may have come up. They will need the ISBN number from my Radical Forgiveness book. If they don't have a copy of the book, and you do, I hereby give you permission, under these special conditions, to give them the ISBN number. Well, good luck. I appreciate your willingness to play the role of Game Master, and trust that you enjoy it. But don't feel that you always have to do it. You might want to let someone else try it occasionally. If playing this game inspires you to do more with Radical Forgiveness, you might also give consideration, if you're not already a graduate of the Institute for Radical Forgiveness, to becoming trained as a Radical Forgiveness coach and ceremony facilitator. It requires no previous training and gives you an opportunity to learn how to coach people in how to use the Radical Forgiveness technology to transform their lives. For details of this, come visit with us at www.radicalforgiveness.com. Blessings and namaste.